Hello everybody and welcome to LMM, and you've probably guessed this from the fact we're at the board and there's model railway stuff out. It's now time for another episode of Lawrie Goes a Little Loco. And for all of you who want a little bit more LMM, all our social media details are coming up on the screen now. There's also a link there to our Discord so you can get in contact and share pictures of your own model railways. And of course, if you really like what you're seeing here and you want to help the channel grow and become even better and make bigger and more exciting content, there is a link to our Patreon as well. And to all our wonderful Patreon supporters, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the support. So onwards with today's video, which is looking at this, asking that age-old question, just how much difference does a service make? Now, I've spoken at length about the little LMS Pug and how this chassis, which is the same chassis on 101 here, which was kindly given by my friend Edward, on the little Cali Pug and the D-Tank are all the same chassis using the same motor, which is the CAN motor with the non-replaceable bushes. And that how I think they're pretty bomb-proof. And I know a couple of you from the comments have said that you've got pugs like this, which aren't the best runners, but they are pretty bomb-proof, and yeah, they'll go around all out at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they're designed for children. You know, there's no handrails, there's very few details on this which are easy to break. And I've remarked several times that this one is not a very good runner. It does run, but it's not particularly smooth. And if we turn it on, well, I've turned the power up to maximum, so, oh, there it goes. So once it starts moving, it's okay. But it has got quite a pronounced limp to it. So we're going to have a look today and see how much, there we go, how much a difference a service can make to an engine. We're going to take you through taking it apart and giving it a service, and how easy it is to service a locomotive. God, that is terrible. But we're also going to try something else. We're going to see if servicing it will increase its pulling power. So I've got hidden just down here a selection of wagons. Now you've seen all of these before. These have come out of the box from the loft. There we go. But they haven't actually featured in a video before, so I thought I'd get them out for you guys to have a look at. So we got the little brake van, a standard Hornby petrol tanker, open wagons, lime, this one from Bachmann, I think, which is missing a coupling here, but the hook still works, that will do, and just a van. So my little Ruston 48, which is about half the size of this, will shift on the level about 100 tons. Now, for instance, this wagon here, this tool van, says that it's 12 tons. So if we take a rough estimate and assume they're all about 10 tons, my loco would be able to shift, well, around this much on the level at its absolute maximum. So this pug shouldn't have any problem with that in real life. Also, we all know that the little Hornby Pug is way overpowered for what it can do, and it will pull many, many times. But this starts off being a somewhat decent sized train. I feel that this is a good prototypical length of train to start off with, and yeah, I quite like it. And finally, the new Bachmann brake van. So let's see if it struggles at all with this, which I doubt. There we go. There it runs. Limping, definitely limping. But it is indeed going round. If I try and go a bit slower, I assume it will just stop. It's okay. Oh, I would definitely class this as being a bad runner. So you can see and hear that it's not a particularly smooth runner at the moment. So the constant acceleration and deacceleration must be doing something for its ability to pull a train. So we're going to split the train, roll that way without derailing it, and pull out some more wagons. So I've got two hoppers here, one which I think's a lemur, don't know, it doesn't say, and this activated one with the little coal hopper that just drops out for removing the coal, which I think is cool. So we've got that. Then I've got the broken Thomas van, the wheel transport wagon, and well, we'll add those to it because that's will kind of increase the train significantly. So we'll put those on, and hopper wagon, and another hopper wagon. Must be Hornby, it looks like Hornby with the couplings. And if I can just get the brake van to connect. Right, we'll take that and we'll see if this makes any difference to, well, it doesn't want to go. Oh, there it goes. And it's made no difference. It's still just very little wheel slip. So we're now starting to get onto definitely this is a far too larger train. So that's a 20-ton hopper, that's a 20-ton hop open, but it wouldn't move this in real life. We're pretty sure of that. Now, the only thing we can really say about this is the additional weight is giving a bit more rolling resistance, which is helping to get rid of the rocking motion, but you can hear the thing is kind of working and stopping. So it's going to need some major adjustments to the pickups. Right, so I'll get out a few more wagons. And admittedly, I thought this was going to start kind of slipping at this stage. So I've got here from before my two Great Western coaches. So we'll roll them on behind the brake van. And then because these are both first class and we don't have a brake coach, I shall add a brake van behind them as well. Right, so now, oh, there's a little bit of wheel slip there. And it's stalled. There we go. But that's still going. Now, a little bit of wheel slip, but it's still quite happily pulling that. I didn't think it was going to pull this much, so I haven't actually got any more wagons out. These are all the serviceable wagons that I've got on modern bogies. I'm trying to be fair in this test as well. I'm using the modern stock, so I'm not using any of the Triang wagons or the Triang, well, bogie wagons and bits that I've got, because the rolling resistance is so much greater. That said, I kind of thought that it would stop now. I didn't think it would continue to pull this. And the tank wagon has popped off again. So I wonder if how much of the wheel slip is being caused by the fact that this is derailed. So actually, let's see how much weight is there here now. Oh wow, that's quite a lot. There's a lot of rolling resistance there. So I'm just going to disconnect this and stick this a bit further back of the train so there's less weight upon it. So we'll connect that up here, as it seems to not have enough weight to keep it on the rails. It's actually amazing how little extra rolling resistance adding these two coaches has made. So we'll couple those up. Just notice this one, the coupling hook is, the end of it's there, but the actual hook's gone. That's a fair bit of weight. So, okay, fine. Let's, how does it do that? Okay, fine. I'm going to have to go and find some more wagons to go behind this now, because I didn't expect it to pull all of this. So I've gone and got some extra coaches. So we're going to stick this on, which rolls rather nicely. And we'll put on the dapper one behind that. We'll see what difference 2 extra coaches makes to this whole thing. We'll leave this one off for a second. So, I think we have found the edge, what it can do. That is slipping like mad, but still very slowly dragging everything forward, which is phenomenal, really. Oh, we come to a stall. Let's give it a little push, see if it makes any difference. Oh, I've just knocked everything off. Wow, pulling that round, the amount of rolling resistance there is magnificently high. So we'll just pull this out and because it derailed under. The problem is now I've got so much weight behind the train that it is derailing these smaller wagons which don't have a huge amount of weight to them. So let's see what happens now if we ask it to. Okay. Now, my layout obviously isn't quite on the level for the fact that we're slowing down now as it comes down this corner and picking up the speed when we get to this point. So we'll ask it to get a bit more of speed up and see if we can carry some of that through. I mean, in scale terms, each of these coaches is like 30 odd tons. So that's 120 plus a 20-ton brake van. So we've got 140. We've got like almost 300 tons of train here, which is way beyond what that can do. And I am... Okay, so it is struggling, but it is still moving. That's a mental thing, isn't it? To be able to shift all of this. I mean, literally by the time the end of the train has gone past, we haven't even finished getting off that curve before it's finished this curve. In fact, the train isn't off the curve before it re-enters the curve. That's how close they are. So, I mean, it's got that moving. So, will it take the extra coach, which will add another 30 tons worth of prototype weight? Now, my money is on probably not, because it was struggling before. And I mean, it's not happy about the concept, but it did start it moving. Not touched it yet. Oh, there we go. It has ground to a stop. Give it a push to see if it makes any difference. Maximum power. I mean, it is pulling it on the downhill section, which is impressive. But I think we have found the limit. Yes. That we have, as it comes to us all. So, we've established the maximum load for a Hornby Caledonian Pug. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wagons and 4 bogie coaches. Which is excessive, really. Yep, and it will restart that train. There's a lot of wheel slip going on there, but it will restart that. That's stupid. That's utterly stupid. So now we've got our benchmark, it's time to have a look at this. And I've ordered a chimney. It's not the right chimney, but we're going to add a chimney to this and see if we can bring it back and just improve things a little on it. I'm going to do a bit of detailing work. Hopefully we're going to sort out some of the cab detail. So with that, I'm going to pack this lot away. Wow! Okay, I can't tell you how much the weight of this is, but I mean, I can't even think what it's compared to. It's heavy. Like, I'm fairly strong, but yeah, the weight of that, I could hold this up for not that long before I gave up because it's too heavy. That's ludicrous. I can't. It doesn't even weigh that much. I can't. Okay. Well, let's with that done, let's give it. Yeah, we'll clear this away and we'll give the little Hornby 040 a service and a bit of detailing work and repair work and try and get it looking proper nice. So, taking this thing apart, well, that involves sticking a screwdriver in here and easing the front of the body off. So we need to set a screwdriver into here. We just prise those apart. And now with the front popped, we can just pull the rest of this gently apart, like so. Now this body has actually got a fair amount of weight to it. That's a die cast running plate, which gives it just a bit more sense of weight and presence. And that reveals this. Wow, well I think we understand the problem with this. The mechanism is 100% totally dry and the wheels are absolutely filthy. Those are the worst looking wheels I think I have ever seen. No wonder this thing doesn't run very well. Yeah, they're terrible. Right, so by unclipping these little things here, we can remove the motor mounting clip, and that will allow us to pull the motor off the chassis, he says. Because I think we're going to want to take this thing out to give it a good clean. There we go, release that. Oh, it's been tacked in place as well with tackifying horrible glue. Good, good, good. But at least we can clear that out now. So that shows us the state of what we've got, which is disgusting. And the hair there caught around the motor. So for these kind of things, generally I just use a small jeweler's screwdriver, and we can start to just remove some of this unpleasantries. That's just, get rid of that. Get rid of all of it there. And now we can start trying to dig it out from in the chassis. See, that stuff that shouldn't be inside my model locomotive. So that's good. And then just look at the state of them. They are completely knackered. So we need to get some stuff into the bearings in there because they are knackered and need lubrication. So now at this stage we should be able to unscrew the bottom plate here, a little tiny screw there, which means I can take the motor mount out. Now with that out, it means I can actually get to the bearings of all of it to give it a good oil up. Now with these things, you can't pull the axles off unless you pop the wheels off, and then you've got to re-quarter them, and I really don't want to do that. So we are just going to remove some more of the fuzz, which has got itself in there. Which is actually rather bad. God, this thing has been run on a carpet. I am pretty sure this has been run on a carpet. I can just scrape. I just keep finding more and more little bits of hair and general tat within his. Oh, there's literally hair wrapped around the axle in there. So at this point, guys, it's up to you to, there we go. That's the hair wrapped around the axle. So at this point, guys, it's your opportunity to say whether or not you think this model is ever going to go back together again after I've started disassembling it. Bear in mind, this is a very simple model of Hornby's. This is one of the easiest things to service. This has just been long overdue. And wow, very much neglected during its life. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then we'll cut the video to a stage where I'm actually prepared to do something else rather than just gunking through stuff. That is important, and it's one of the reasons that you should never run your model railway locos on carpet. They really do not like it. Pick up all these horrible fibres. So now we're at this disassembled state. It's time to attack these wheels because they are terrible. And for that, I've got a wire brush here. And it's got a detail end on it, so I can just gently scrape away at the years of tarnish that's built up over these poor wheels. Now there are multiple ways of doing this. Sometimes I will use a little Dremel with a rotary wire brush, which seems to work fairly well as well. Some people will use solvents, and of course you can just use a track rubber, although the track rubber itself being quite large, you might struggle to get it into the gaps you need to actually get to your wheels. Now, doing this is going to make the biggest difference between the running characteristics, because these wheels are just so filthy. Now, I do have a Twix wheel cleaner that you put on the track, and it's got wire brushes, and it just runs the wheels on them and it cleans them. But of course, that's in storage, so that's not going to happen today. track rubber. There, we'll just give that a tiny wipe over just to get the worst off. Give it a bit of a shine with the track rubber. This bit there I can't get to, so we'll just use. Now you might be thinking, now, cool, this is a rather time-consuming process, and yes, it is. There's no way of getting around that, but they are precision models and they do need care and attention to keep them at their best. Right, one down, the rest to go. And yeah, this shows you the before and after. Now, for somebody who has never serviced their model railway engines, I can only really suggest that you do, because it will make a fundamentally massive difference to the running characteristics. And it is, at the end of the day, a machine, and machines do need maintenance. You won't expect your car to keep running if you didn't give maintenance to it, would you? So with the wheel cleaning completed and them looking shiny, it's now time to add some lubrication. So I've got here some oil, which is the important part, and also I have acquired this, which is a small piece of wire. And all we do with this is we dip it into the oil, so we've got just a drop on the end of the oil, and then that we can apply to the axles like so. Now it's very important not to over lubricate, because if you over lubricate you'll muck it up, but like that. So that's the main bearings done. Once we've reassembled, we'll do this and we'll do the other bits. So that's the inside done, so I can at least get the motor back in now, because it's kind of important to put these things back together and keep them together. So we'll put the motor housing back in, and that just slots into place like that. That's pretty easy. So now with the motor plate back in, we can put the tiny little screw back into the base plate, like so, and that will now hold the motor mount back in. Okay, so having done that, we now rest the motor carefully, trying desperately not to break any of these nice wires, and press the motor back in there. We put the little cover back on that way around to keep it insulated away from the metal, and then hopefully that will go into the right place. So all we need to do now is to swing that round and down and get that into the right position. Now it's very important as well to make sure with this that we have the contact on the far side near me touching the right place. So, and that needs to drop into there like so. That needs to go back. And now that is engaging in the rightish way. So that goes across the top. So we tuck it into one side first and then pull it round to the other side like so. And now that is the chassis back together again, which was a relatively straightforward. So having had the engine out, the most important thing to do at this point is to put it on the rails and see what happens and make sure it's still working like so. Now there is no cover for the cylinders here, so the rod here can just fly out if you go too fast. So we'll just give it a little bit of power and see. Oh yeah, look at the difference to that. Wonderful. So let's now do the lubrication on the rest of it. We'll get my oil back and we can start doing the other bits of lubrication. This needs a lid off the oil again. Start here, getting a drop on it, and we'll just do the pins there and there, just like that, just enough on there to make sure they're lubricated. And that is plastic and metal there, but it can't hurt it. And the other place to do it, as well as the other side, is just on the shaft of the motor, and then of course a decent splodge on the worm gear itself. It's very important to get some on the worm gear. And then on the other side, like so, and then one other drop just on the pin in there. So that's now been completely stripped down. Everything's been lubed up, so hopefully that's going to make quite a significant change to how the thing operates now that we've oiled out. So I'm going to stick it over here because there's some stuff I want to get on with the shell. I want to do a bit of painting and I want to do a bit of detailing and a bit of repair work. First of all, I've acquired this. Now, this is not the right chimney for the Pug, but finding a chimney for these things seems to be quite difficult. So that is going to go onto there. But as there is still the remnants of the chimney, I'm going to have to do a bit of work to modify it. So here I have a tiny modelers file from Games Workshop. And we're just going to, in fact, we're going to pick this up first with a piece of cloth just to stop my hands leaving greasy marks all over this thing. And we're going to just file away at what's left of the chimney here. And a bit more over there. It's always scary doing this because, you know, if you do too much, you'll ruin it. Whereas too little and it won't look right. How does that look then? I'm going to put that onto there. That's going to look about right. So the first thing to do before we actually put it on is let's put some paint on it to make it easier once it's on. So I've got here a Psalm or Games Workshop Adamant Black. And I have not painted anything with Warhammer for, well, some time now. So I've got my slate here and I'm going to choose this brush. Just to put a little bit of black on, put it onto my slate like so, and now we will paint the chimney. Now it does have the mark to look like it could become copper, but I'm not doing that. I'm just doing black. I've got a bit of water over here just to help spread the paint a bit better. So just like that. We'll paint this nice and black. And obviously I need to let it dry and then I can pick it up and do the other part, the bottom of it. So I should have picked it up by the chimney, by the top of the chimney, by the cap. But as I didn't, never mind. Now Games Workshop paint is quite good. I found in the experience it stays on metal quite well. My eyesight isn't as good as it was when I used to do this kind of stuff, I've noticed. I need a bit more black, but there we go, that's a black looking chimney. And that can just go inside of there. That's one thing with a paintbrush, you will never get as good a finish. Oops, drop that. Well, it'll never be as good a finish as they are from the factory, but we can do but try. So we'll let that dry for a few seconds. I'm just going to put my brush there. And once that's dry, we can pick up and do the other bit. In the meantime, however, we can start looking at other things that aren't quite right with the Loco. For instance, when did you last see a Loco that had black buffers? So I think it's time to give the buffers a bit of a touch up. Here we have some blood red, which is a nice bright red colour. Again, we're just going to, in fact, we'll just bring the water over here because it'll be easier. Tad of water, and I'm just going to start painting up the buffers. So I think they'll look better being red. Now, I might have got a little bit carried away, to be honest, to think about start doing this to a model like this, but you know what? When in Rome, now, I was never the best painter. Now, I don't suggest for a second that my painting will have improved through not being used. But I do like the idea of just doing a little bit of TLC and upgrading to this to make it just look a little more enjoyable. And of course it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's my model, so if it doesn't look quite right, nothing ventured, nothing gained. There we go. Now bearing in mind that this paint is many years old, I am quite impressed. concentration. There we go, that looks all right. That one looks okay, I suppose. I'll do the underside as well, just for the sake of being correct. So that's that. Now I'd better start bringing this round. And we are going to do the shanks as well. Like so. Now, there's a real smell to Games Workshop paints that I never really appreciated, but when I opened it up earlier, I was like, oh, this brings back many happy memories. So I'm pretty sure somewhere in here, under all the basicness of the pug, there's a nice model. I also like the fact that blood red isn't too red. That's kind of doing what I wanted without ruining anything. Okay, so the paint job I'm doing is terrible. Absolutely terrible. But I'm quite happy. I mean, it's going to look slightly better than it did. And if it doesn't really matter because, again, it's my model. Again, this is my first attempt at painting a loco, so I think that actually does look a bit better having the front buffer beam painted red, which now means that as I've successfully done the front, I will need to do the back as well. In fact, I'm going to do all of that. So, all in all, that's horrible, I think, is what I'm going to say with that. I have really done a not very good job. Paint does not want to go on nicely. Oh dear, that's full of paint marks. Let's try doing the back without making quite so many errors. Of course, the best way to do this is to use an air gun, but you know, an air brush it. Because I don't have that. We can't do that. It's quite nice just to do something like this. Whoops, that's black. That's not what I wanted. Bit more red. Yep. So at the end of this, if you want to paint anything your engine, go ahead, but I do suggest sending it to a professional who actually knows what they're doing, unlike me. It's one of those things though, it's quite good to give it a bash yourself. Also makes you appreciate just how good the decals are on modern Hornby and Bachmann and DePaul models. And any other manufacturer that I've missed out of. So I know there are several of them now, so Helgen. There we go. Well, personally, I think that looks better than it did before, having the red buffer beam, which means I will need to paint a bit of the chassis to match it in with the rest of it. Oh, it's not brilliant at the front, but it's okay. I will need to touch up with some black, though, well, I've painted over what I need to do. So we'll get a bit more red out. Probably should have given this a shape beforehand, really. There we go, a bit more red. And paint just across there. Buffer beam painted. And already it looks a bit more like a model. Okay, terribly painted, but the point remains. So while we're doing this, and I've got kind of carried away with everything, should we have a look at the cab and what we could pick out with, I don't know, say some shining gold. There's a bit of shining gold left. And we're just going to line out parts of the cab now. Just going to hit C about following a couple of pipes. Now this is going to be quite challenging. And this could go terribly, terribly wrong. In fact, I don't even know how to start this. I've always thought about doing this and always thought it'd be hard work. And I was right. Very hard work. Need a very fine brush. And a very minute amount of paint. Honestly, one of the most difficult things I've ever tried to paint But even just the small little bit there I've done, I think has made quite the notable difference to the back head. Now this one then, again, this is quite difficult and this is very time consuming. As long as I don't royally muck it up, I think it makes a huge difference to a fairly simple model to how it appears. And the rest of the back head can stay black. I mean, there's no problem with it being black. Whoops. Okay, there are some mistakes with that, but mostly I'll live with it. Oh, and that definitely went wrong. Did not want to paint the roof there. Whoops. Might need to touch that up with some black. But while we're there, we might as well put a daub of white. This is ceramic white. Right, so while we're here, let's get out super glue and place a bit of super glue on the base of this chimney, which obviously I'm going to make sure I filed first to make sure there's no bits on it, obviously. Cool. So I'll now add some super glue to the base of that. And now becomes the most difficult bit of trying to make sure we get this in the exactly the right position. Because if we don't, it will look wrong forever. Matter of fact, I think that's pretty good. Need a little touch up of black around it, but that's more or less, that's stuck in position now anyway. That's how it is now forevermore. So the difference, I mean, this is taking me a long time, but the difference now between this model, how it was and how it is now, is night and day. It's got a chimney again, the chimney's the right colour. Buffer beams are the right colour. I need to just do a little bit of touching up on bits there. So that's what we'll do next. I'll get the bulk on metal out again, and I'm just going to touch up the tiniest bit of paint there, and just touch up the coupling hook at the front there, so that stands out. I know it's not really a hook, it's just a moulding, but it represents the hook, so we're just going to give that the tiniest bit of paint like that. There we go. So the next thing to do is just a bit more of a tidy up. So we get the black out again and just try and fix the last little bit on these rear lights. But in actual fact, that's looking half decent. I'm actually quite happy with how it looks now. It looks better than it did. That's the main thing. It looks better than it did. Does indeed. Bit of white just. So in actual fact, that's quite good. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but better than it was. And of course, when it's running on a train, you won't really notice the imperfections as much. But you will be a little more aware of the added detail. It will just help bring the model alive a little bit more. Just make it a bit more special and a bit more proper. I particularly like the way the paint hasn't gone too bright, it just looks about right. So I just need a little bit of black across the front there. And we can stick our driver in, or our fireman, who's acting driver, as I don't have a driver. And Bob is indeed one's uncle. There we go, right, that's that mostly. Oh god, a little bit more. Sorted. Now obviously the most logical thing to do now is to get some handrails for it in the future, but for now it's fine. So I need to work out where I want my little fireman to stand. That looks good enough to me. So we'll get my super glue out again, and we'll just dab a little bit of super glue onto the base of this gentleman, like so. And then we shall gingerly, carefully, I'm sure I had some tweezers here, place him in the cab, and using a thing like that, we shall just spin him into position, which is actually harder than it looks on this. Come back here. And there we have it. That looks brilliant. It's quite good actually. So with all the bodywork now completed to an acceptable standard, it's now time to get the recently serviced chassis here, making sure the rods are in their little slots, because if not it won't go together. And now to try and get the body back on. So it's important to make sure that the little motor clips go through the gaps in the chassis. Just occasionally we'll need a little push like so. Then at the back here there are two clips that will just clip in. It should just push back down, hopefully, if it's in the right position. That's the back in and that's the front in. Ta-da, da-da-da-da. That is the Pug back together again. So now we can kind of see how much better it looks having got its chimney on. It does look quite nice, and from the back, oh yeah, this is notably better. So obviously the test is to stick it on the rails and see if it works. Let's see what happens when we give some power to this, which now looks a lot better with its people. And well, the difference in performance is night and day. It has picked up an interesting noise, but I'm assuming that will go away. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect up to my train that's over here. And I mean, the difference in performance is just unrecognisable. Absolutely. Now, the thing I will notice though is there is more wheel slip now. That could be my fault for getting oil on the drive wheels. But it is running a lot happier and a lot quieter now. Look at that. Oh, that's, and having the chimney on it as well has just brought it up. It looks so much better. Very happy now. So when I started this video, one of the big questions was, we knew that servicing would probably make a difference. I wasn't quite expecting this much, something that was, well, running terribly and lumpy, to something that now rolls, well, it's almost a scale speed, isn't it? That's about right for a shunting engine, isn't it? And yeah, the difference is just, it wouldn't have done this before, and it required far more power to get it going, and it's now, well, would look almost at home on a branch line layout. I feel like I might look to see about getting some handrails for it, because I feel that would just make it look a little bit nicer. Especially, it looks so much better having put crew inside it. And I never had crew inside my model railway locos before, and I'm now realising I'm going to have to. But the big question we asked was, would it make it able to haul any more, but in better condition? Now, bearing in mind that I've not run this in, because I haven't really needed to, and I feel that having had a service, a run-in will probably help it. But let's go get the carriages again, and we'll try and rebuild the train we had before and see if it will pull any more this time round. We started off with these two coupled up behind that. We'll just shift it forward a little bit. And now I'll add this one. And then behind that we had this brake van. And then behind that brake van, oh, we had these two. And this was on the limit for it last time. This was about as much as it could pull. So will servicing allow us to put anything else behind this? Let's find out if it will actually shift this silly load again. Interestingly, it looks like it won't. Give it a push, see if it will start it. Well, that is interesting, isn't it? That is interesting. It would appear that servicing it has reduced some of its pulling capacity. Go on, get going. Oh, there we go. Well, I think before it might have actually been able to pull more. So that's an interesting final note, isn't it? Servicing your engines means that it pulls less. That's very unexpected. Very unexpected. Admittedly, I was expecting it to pull slightly more. I wasn't expecting it to not pull as much as it once did. That's interesting. I guess what's probably happened is some of the oil that I put onto it has got onto the wheels. However, what we have learned is just how much more happy it is now. It's so much better, and I'm glad I took the time to work on it because it looks superb now. Quite happy with this, well, decent sized goods train. I mean, perfectly decent size for my layout. The added bit of the crew on there and the painted lights and the cab with the gold picked out. From my distance away from it, you can't see the flaws. So I'm pretty happy with that. However, the major improvement with it has rather made me realise that I kind of need to attack the rest of the fleet. So that will be something that's coming up in a future video. I'll go through the rest of the locomotives I've got and give them all a good service and repair any things that need repairing. And probably actually I'm going to get some crews for most of them because having the crew looks good, and some of them will get a bit of a touch up with paint and little things. I might look for a handrail set for that and see if I can drill in and attach handrails, because it does have the moulding detail there and here where the handrail used to plug in, and that would just make it look, well, just that much more better. And I need a driver for it as well, because it's just got a fireman at the moment, but sitting down driver just doesn't look right in this. So guys, I suppose we answer the age-old question of will servicing your engines increase its haulage capacity with no. In this case, it's actually rather limited it. I used to be able to pull many wagons and 4 coaches, and now I can't. However, it was well worth doing. The engine never ran like this before, and it wouldn't have done this. And it does now run quite happily like that. I mean, it's almost as if it's a different locomotive now. It really is. I am completely blown away, and it looks so nice. I want to get a layout start. With thanks to Ed again for sending across all these lovely bits here, because it's just made me feel like I want to build a layout. And I've got a load of points and things now, so I can start fiddling around with if I actually want to set this up with something permanent on it, or if I'm going to build something else and do something a bit different. But certainly it is far better than it was, and it has been a worthwhile thing to do today to get it back to this stage. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this little adventure of trying to fix an engine and having a bit of fun with it and finding out what it will do. And I hope you'll join us again. Please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, share this video with some of your model railway friends, and of course leave a comment. Share some pictures of your own model railways, what you get up to, and your servicing horror stories, because I'd love to hear about those. And do remember, we've got the Discord, so get in touch and join the model railway chat or model talk and share pictures of your model railways and all that kind of good stuff. In the meantime though, thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, how about clicking over there somewhere for the last Lawrie Goes Little Loco, or how about that way for Lawrie Goes Loco reviews on a proper locomotive. Thanks for watching guys, we'll see you next time. I cannot believe the difference that has made.